Go.
Alright, today we're going to discuss various RPG systems, strengths, weaknesses, and comparisons between ourselves.
How about you go first, Dalton?
Okay. Well, let's start with something a little bit different. I think most people are at least a little bit exposed to what D&D is, so we're going to skip past that one. And we're going to go in with one of my personal favorites lately is the Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG. Now, I know what you're thinking. All the other Star Wars RPGs are bad and imbalanced, and you're right.
It's because they're based off the D20 system.
Yeah, which was bad and imbalanced.
Crock of shit.
But it has a rather interesting dice mechanic. It's not super unique, but it is like a
it's definitely
build a dice pool system.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most diverse dice systems I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There's no one die that you rely upon.
Yeah, and there's so much incentive to use the environment to your advantage in that system because that can drastically change your check. It's not all about your skill, it's about your positioning, your ability to think on your feet quickly, right?
So
there's actually advantage and disadvantage that you roll that aid you in your check.
Mm-hmm.
As a player who's never played this system, how does it respond to power gamer tinkering? Does it hold up under pressure if people try to break it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really
because there are really alright. So there's no levels.
It's completely
XP based, and the least powerful character you can build, and a fully XP'd out character. The fully XP'd out character is probably only 4 times more powerful than the least character. And let's take it to Jedi, which.
Well, I mean, Jedi are always...
The only way that
and even then, they're not that bad. They're only like 6 times more powerful.
The only way that you can abuse the system is if by your a droid, which is what Devin did. You're a droid who was statted out mental stats.
And even then, that isn't that bad.
No, it's not, but it's still it. And then you have an engineer on the team because droids can be infinitely upgradable.
Mm-hmm.
You can give them anything. You can turn a goddamn medic droid into a battle droid. Mm-hmm. And he would still have the same mental stats as anyone else of his original character.
Yep.
Which is why, the only thing that are OP in that system are droids.
And even then, droids are specifically stated in all of the source books as discriminated against, disliked, and not having the ability to exert their own will in the world. So you're playing at an RP disadvantage there if you're a droid.
Okay. So it seems to hold up to the poke at it with the power gamer stick.
Yeah, and no.
How about for new gamer accessibility?
Because there's basically only one thing you do, which is you build a pool of dice based off your skill and your ability score, right? And the circumstances around you and what you're trying to do, right? So there's the dice you add in because you have that, you're that good at this thing. Mm-hmm. The dice that the environment adds in, or the check you're trying to do is inherently adds in because of how difficult the check is,
mm-hmm.
or if it's an opposed check, like how good the enemy is defending himself or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you put in circumstance die, like if you have the grit point feature, not the grit point feature. If you have one of the features that allows you to add or subtract advantage or disadvantage dice because of your situation, like there's a lot of piloting ones. Where you are able to subtract a certain number of disadvantage die from the pool in order to make your check more successful.
So what determines the success of a check in this system?
Ratio of successes to failures on the die.
If
you have more successes than failures, you succeed.
At what you're doing.
Yes, but there's also advantage and disadvantage on the die. There's success, failure, critical success, critical failure, advantage, disadvantage.
It's like a 2-axis success. It's like a it's a bilinear success chart with
what you intended to happen happens, but bad things also might happen.
Like what was the example used in the book? Was it with a laser pistol and you shoot a steam pipe?
All right. You roll a success, right? So you hit your target, right? You do damage to the stormtrooper. But you manage to hit a steam pipe behind him, obscuring him from view, making your next attacks more difficult.
So that's a success with a critical fail.
That's a success with a disadvantage.
Okay.
Or a number of disadvantages.
Okay.
And also, more mundanely, they can be turned into like strain, which is like mental HP, and they can be turned into disadvantages in your next check. Like,
So what would the same example like success with advantage be?
okay, so success with advantage. You manage to hit the stormtrooper and deal fairly critical damage to him, so he takes 2 disadvantage dice on his next attack against you.
Okay. Seems interesting.
Yeah, and because the players are the only one who ever roll die,
Yeah.
the DM just builds the dice pool. They feel much more in control of their fate.
Also, Aid Another
So
is actually relevant in
the
the system. Like, if you're trained in that skill, I'm pretty sure that you can roll additional die with them.
You can add an advantage die by assisting them.
So the DM's dice placement is arbitrary.
I mean, there are stats. Like if there are enemies, they have stats. They have inherent ability to use the blaster when they're shooting you.
Okay.
Right?
But
the DM is encouraged to use the advantage and disadvantage dice to suit the environment and the previous rolls of.
So that level of fiat, I think, might not sit well with some players, though.
No, it wouldn't. If you are a by the numbers, you want to win the game player,
You'll chafe at the system pretty quickly.
Well, it's pretty fair as long as your DM's fair.
But that's not something you can rely on always.
That's true.
Yeah.
But that is a weakness of the system. It's not mechanically sound enough that it relies a lot on DM discretion.
Okay.
It's funny, isn't the very first thing that you do is buy a ship?
Yes, the very first thing you do in the system is buy a ship.
Fun fact, it's exactly like shopping for apartments.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's move on to our next system. Do you want to talk about Call of Cthulhu?
Let's talk about Call of Cthulhu.
Alright, so Call of Cthulhu is a system that Will and I have both played, but Dalton has no experience with.
None at all.
Call of Cthulhu is a D100 success-based system where you roll a percentile dice and you try to roll under a certain number.
And you get degrees of success by ratios of 10. So if you needed to roll a 35 and you got like a 15, that's 2 degrees of success.
Yeah, and the more successful you are, the more successful you are at your action. Call of Cthulhu is a notoriously lethal system. Being set
You're
in,
commoners.
Being
You're commoners.
Being set in the Cthulhu-verse, horrible wibble squish deaths are inevitable, but the system's one of its big strengths is the ease of making new characters.
It's definitely like
It can take
you can hash one out in 10 minutes if you're new.
So I remember a module that we played in which we fed Raft the wood chipper yet again.
We didn't mean to.
Well, whatever. We knew it was up there. Is that he was able to make a new character within 10 minutes while we were in the middle of the module and come right back in. And this is just a one-shot module.
And typically, it was just a lot of it is mafia connections. Send the next guy.
Because it's all set for the most part. You can set it whenever as a DM, but it's set mostly in the 1920s in Lovecraft's kind
Back
of
when there was a
universe.
lot of speakeasies and gang violence, so you just make your team a gang.
So generally, the game is you're an investigator in a group of people investigating some sort of strange occurrence, and then things usually spiral out of control as you uncover the mystic. And it relies really heavily on a sanity system, so that when you see something upsetting or something eldritch, you lose sanity points, and it's like your hit point bar.
Yeah.
Because combat is notoriously lethal. Like, if you get shot, you die.
Makes sense.
Yeah, or you get hit by a pipe in the head, you die. But sanity is like your hit points, and if it slips below a certain point, you can start doing stupid things.
So it makes it actually a very RP-based system since you try to avoid combat as much as possible.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Of course, the players can always set up combat as in, hide in a basement with shotguns and wait for the cultists to come down. But so,
how does it work mechanically?
so whenever you want to do anything,
Yes.
I want to use my lockpick skill. So you have another certain number of points you spend it in skills, and you raise them up from their base, which I think is 15.
It's like XP.
Yeah, and so you could raise a skill to 50, and that would cost 50 minus 15 points, 35 points to raise it there, and you would succeed on 50 or lower.
And some skills you actually start in the base.
Yeah, so let's say lockpick, and you have a 50 lockpick. You go up to the lock, and you roll the dice. That means you have about 50% chance of successfully unlocking it. Depending on how many degrees you fail by, the DM can go, you fucked up, or depending on how many degrees of success, you succeed. It's sort of like the Fantasy Flight system, where like you can succeed really well, like open the lock with ease and quietly or whatever. But it's mostly just a success system. Yeah, and so people just roll D100s all over the place.
And it actually has a really interesting level up system, because if there's ever a session that you succeeded in one of your checks, you mark that check, and by the end of the session, you roll a percentile die against your own skill. If you make the skill, you go up in that skill. Because
if you're constantly practicing lockpicking every session and you don't get wibble squished, then you get better at it. Yeah. Which is, like, you can have long-running Call of Cthulhu games. They're certainly possible. One-shots are usually more lethal because, Dunwich Horror, derp derp.
Because of the North American Red-tailed fox.
Yeah. Of course. Any other questions about the system, Dalton?
Remember kids, North American Red-tailed fox always leaves a perfectly square incision in the chest cavity.
Yeah, and absorbs all the organs.
I'm so confused.
Any other questions about the system? Stupid inside jokes.
So your sanity, you take sanity every time you encounter something eldritch in the Call of Cthulhu universe?
Yes, and you'd usually make...
You take it that's often?
Yes. And so your character is constantly slipping away sanity-wise, but you can make checks to resist this.
So you also alternatively try to investigate while also, like, varying degrees of investigation. Like, things that are, things that you read, but you never open the door. Like, don't open the closet. Don't open the closet. You don't need to. You know not to go in there, so don't open the closet.
An interesting mechanic of the game is that the more you know about the Cthulhu verse, like the more versed your character is in the mythos, the worse it gets for you, because the more open your mind is to like the shocking truths of reality, and the more your mind cracks under the strain.
i.e. insight for Bloodborne players.
So playing an Ignorance is Bliss character can give you incredible power against the mind warping abilities of Cthulhu monsters.
Because your cognitive dissonance will replace you're basically the mental image that you're getting from it. It's like, oh man, it's a cyclopean unicorn bear. It's like, wait, it's a moose.
I'm too stupid to realize that that's weird.
That's a moose.
And also, like, stupid characters can use the power of belief to make it real. Like, if they're like, this is my lucky charm that protects me against floor goblins that I see all the time because I'm crazy, but there really are floor goblins, but his stupid belief in his charm makes it work. But a really intelligent scholar will go, there's no such thing as floor charms. Or like goblin charms. But goblins are real, they're going to come to get me, but nothing I believe can be true because I'm already smart enough to know that it wouldn't work. So playing really intelligent characters can have interesting repercussions, which gives an incentive to play dumb characters, which you very rarely see. Yeah.
It's like first edition D&D.
What?
In terms of rolling stats, I just realized.
Oh yeah, you just sort of get random stats when you build
your character is picked for you by the dice.
Which then you build it around it. Other questions?
No.
You even use 3d6.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
You can also artificially age yourself.
This is true. The older you get, the more education.
Yep.
In the 1920s. I don't know.
Also, what's that one useless stat? That useless Vigil stack?
I don't remember.
Do you remember it though?
No, I don't remember. Alright, so the third system we're going to talk about is one that I'm familiar with, and I think Will and Dalton are minimally, if none. Like, have you played a game in the Hero system before? Okay. So, the Hero system is another one, like, these have all been very weird out of the normal D20 dice systems. The Hero system is a 3d6 roll under system, where you are trying to roll under a target number, usually between the range of 18 and 3. Because you can't roll below that. And it's a really complicated system because it's meant to emulate superheroes. So,
as in the show heroes?
No.
Just
superheroes in general.
Oh.
So,
like, tell them that example that you gave me.
Yeah, you can build anything. So you can go, like, you pick a power. Like, I want a ranged killing attack, like a laser beam.
Yeah.
But it costs a whole bunch of points. You get XP at the beginning to spend into these powers. Yeah. But you can make the powers cheaper by adding limitations to them. So, like, I want the gun. So you pick focus, physical object, gun, which makes it cost less because it's physical object. I want it to have bullets. So you go, like physical focus, clip. In the clip is charges. When it runs out of charges, it can't shoot anymore. So you organically build what other games have intrinsically in them from the ground up.
And its funnest aspect is also its most, like, almost intimidating problem.
So it's the most fun part of it, that you can make anything you want, from a wizard to a cyborg fairy dragon.
But there's so much content.
It's hard to know what to do or where to start, which is why a lot of times new players are really turned off the hero system, because they try to build a character, even if you're using the online like builder system, you still don't know what the hell you're doing. So I don't know. I think it's like versatility is amazing. Local DM, Paul, has managed to mod cop a bunch of shittier, unfunctioning RPG systems like Rifts or Second Edition Exalted, and if you think they function, then you're wrong. And then sort of hammer them into the hero system, keeping their setting and feeling intact. But since the hero system can do anything, you can simulate any other game setting with it. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's talk about Rifts for a second.
No, fuck you. It doesn't function in the end.
Then there were 5 types of werewolf.
Do you guys have any questions about
And then cowboy was a skill set.
So give us an example of a character you have.
Okay, so I built a character called, his name is Scowls, but it's in the Exalted sort of homebrew, like, mod cop.
Yeah.
And so he's based on martial arts styles, so he has a punch, which is named some really stupid anime name, because that's required in the setting.
Okay.
And then the punch is a melee killing attack. But I linked a multi-power, so you like have a power that has a bunch of powers inside of it, being like the 5-fold aspect style, which is a bunch of different attacks that do different things. Like it's a drain to defensive combat value, like I break their leg, they're easier to hit. Or it's a drain to armor, like I crunch their armor with my punch. Or it's a drain to attack rolls, like I damage their arms. So it's like all built into the punch, and I can choose which one to use when I attack with it. And also, I can like have it be auto fire, so if I hit well enough, I can punch 3 times. Or, but the most fun part of the character.
For a second, I thought you said you could punch through time.
You can actually. One of the powers that you can build is the. It's from Exalted, but you can build it in Heroes. It's whenever someone. Well, I'm not talking about setting. It's whenever someone throws a social attack at you, you can immediately respond by punching them. In response to the social attack.
Oh, is this the one where...
Yes, but the attack doesn't have any range. So that you respond with, like, in response to killing attack, make damage. So someone's just like, I make a social attack at you, punched in the head from 100 miles off. Or if the guy with the posted armor full of social attacks turns and looks at you, you punch him 100 times in the head in response. Or you read a letter from a guy that contains a social attack and you punch the air and his head explodes 500 miles away. But again, like there's a lot of weirdness and versatility. But the fun of like the character that I have is that he's in a mech, and there's a power that you can build that allows you to use martial arts through a vehicle. So he uses his martial arts style in this like Pacific Rim style big ass like brawling mech, and the system fully supports it. And because of the way it works, I'm not broken in any particular way. I'm just like really good at the thing I focused on. And there are so many things that I'm not good at that I didn't build powers for, like social stuff, mobility, utility. Like, I'm just a punchy guy. But you can build really interesting and complex powers, even with sort of a limited system mastery that I have, because I'm still relatively new to the system.
It's really cool.
Yeah. The to-hit mechanic is so weird that I still don't understand it. It's you roll you roll 3d6 and then
how long have you been playing?
You subtract your to hit value from like a number, and then you look at the dice. I just don't understand it.
Isn't there just like an automatic calculator for that though?
No, it's too weird. So
how long have you been playing Heroes?
Roll the dice. Right? You read the result.
You want roll low. The end.
So just to clarify for the complexity of the combat system, Zach, how long have you been playing Exalted for?
2 years.
How? What's your grasp on the combat mechanic?
I know how to build all the different combat powers, and I know how all the different damage powers work. I'm still not sure on attacking yet. I know that it's roll 3d6, roll low, and I'm like, I think I hit because I rolled below a certain number. Like, and you compare it to their defense, and God, it's complicated. Whatever, but it's a lot of fun. Hero system, it's super cool. Anything else, guys, about heroes?
No, I'm hooked.
Cool.
Okay. Well,
I think that was D&D&D.
this has been D&D and D&D, and we've been happy to discuss with you our many things we enjoy talking about. Have a good evening.
Yay!